Why do people cheat? What are some personality traits that can predict a cheater? Who's more likely to cheat, men or women? Who's more likely to try to steal someone's partner away? The whole, stealing your man thing. These are some questions that are all going to be answered today. Hey everybody, my name is Daniel. Daniel teaches the psychology student, bringing you his unique perspective on life, psychology, motivation, all the good stuff in between from my own personal anecdotes, my lectures, and the textbook readings. Today's topic is going to be about cheating. It's going to be about cheating, jealousy, and partners, okay? So we're going to hop right into it. The biggest buffer against cheating is relationship commitment. The more committed an individual is, the more invested they are in a relationship, the less likely they are to cheat. Now, committed is a pretty vague term. Daniel, what does that mean? Let's break it down really simply. The first thing we have to take into account is my level of satisfaction. The more satisfied I am in a relationship, the less likely I am to leave. So, let's say, these are just arbitrary numbers here. At a scale of 1 to 10, I need you to be at least an 8 out of 10. If you're an 8 out of 10, then I'm satisfied. You're my partner. You are a 9 out of 10. And I'm not talking about looks or personality. That number just is a fictional unit that represents my level of needs and satisfactions. My level of needs and wants that are being met by the relationship. If your number is above my number or matching my number, I am satisfied. If it's below my number, I am not satisfied. So, me being with you, I need at least an 8. Being with you, I feel like I'm getting 9 out of 10, which is awesome. That's above my 8 out of 10. I am satisfied in this relationship. If I need an 8 out of 10 and then I meet someone who in that relationship is giving me a 5 out of 10, now I don't feel satisfied. Once again, the numbers, nothing to do with looks, nothing to do with personality. I'm not ranking people based on their physical features. This is purely an arbitrary number made up to represent your satisfaction in a relationship, okay? Here's where things get interesting. I could be an individual and all I need is a 3 out of 10, like scale of satisfaction in order to stay with my relationship. So I meet someone who's a 4 out of 10, who gives me the 4 out of 10, I'll stay in the relationship. That's why we have so many people who look at relationships and go, why are they together? He treats her so horribly. She keeps talking behind his back. They're unhappy. Or they appear to be unhappy, they appear to be arguing, yet they're still satisfied in the relationship. How does that work? There's a flip side. Let's say you're a young lady and you're looking for a 9 out of 10. And that's your scale, that's your level that you need in order to feel satisfied in the relationship. You meet a fine young man who gives you a 7 out of 10. That woman will be unsatisfied in her relationship. Here's the interesting part. The earlier couple that I said, the one that needed a 3 out of 10 that was getting a 4 out of 10, they were happy. This one, even though the guy's giving her a 7 out of 10, it doesn't meet her. It doesn't meet her standards and her levels of satisfaction. So even though he's a 7 out of 10, she's still not satisfied. And you're going, well, wait a minute, Daniel, if one of them is a 7 out of 10 and one of them is an 8 out of 10, isn't one of them bound to be feeling less satisfied? Not exactly, because it depends on what you and your partner's views are on the ideal romantic relationship, which oftentimes the first glance is from our parents. Our parents kind of play the first role of, oh, okay, this is what a relationship should look like. He should hold the door open for me, or he should pay on the first date, or we should split the first date. That's the right way to go. So essentially, it's the closer our ideals of what a relationship should look like actually look like that and are similar to one another, then you're satisfied. Because if you believe in a happy relationship, the guy should pay on the first date, and he also thinks that, and then he does, satisfaction. The problems come when someone thinks a guy should pay on a first date and the other guy's been grown up to be told, no man, you only pay half and half. Always, right? That's the problem there. Another thing to take into account is your options. If I'm with a young lady and I'm not satisfied with my relationship, however, I feel like I can't do any better. So if we broke up and my alternatives are worse than what I've got going for me, I'm going to stay in it. That's why you've got relationships that are quote unquote unhappy. I'm not satisfied, but it's stable because there's no one else around that I'd rather be with. On the flip side, you could have ones where I'm satisfied in my relationship, Me and her, we're getting along well, but my options, my alternatives are really good. And in the words of women, why settle when you can do better? That's a huge component of cheating. It's that idea of, look, I'm happy in my relationship, but it's unstable. It's a happy but unstable relationship because my alternatives either are as good as my partner, or in my view, they may be better. They're a little more extroverted, they're a little more funny, they're a little more attractive. So those are two huge things to take into account: satisfaction with your partner and the alternative options around you. The really cool thing is, look, there was a study done and it took married men and single men into a bar from about 8 p.m. to 12. And whatever they did, everyone did. So either if they were drinking, everyone was drinking. If they weren't drinking, no one was drinking. And they had the men rate the attractiveness of the women in that bar, once at 8 p.m. and once at 12 a.m. at midnight. Here's the interesting thing. For married men, if they gave a rating of, let's say the average girl in there is like a 6 out of 10, and they gave another rating at midnight, their rating did not change over time. Okay? For the single men, when they went into the bar, the first time that they rated the average looks of women in this bar, they gave about, let's say, 6 out of 10, same as the married men. However, when they came back to give another rating at the end of the night at midnight, they actually reported them as being more attractive, as being an 8, if not 9, if not 10 out of 10. But the married men's perception did not change. In other words, over time, single men find women to be more attractive. And over time doesn't mean months. I'm talking in a span of hours. One single guy could be in a bar, look at a girl and go, I'm probably not interested at 8 p.m. And at 11 p.m., he could look at that same girl and go, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. It changes. They become more attractive, and you might argue desperation plays a role. But for married men, this did not happen. The same attractive number that they gave the person in the first time around, it did not change the second time around. So that's another important thing to note, is how when we are in a relationship and we feel satisfied and we feel committed, it's almost like tunnel vision. There could be attractive people around, you don't even see them. You literally don't see them. You could be with your friends and then your friend, hey man, wow, look at that beautiful woman over there. Where? I didn't even see her. Oh, her? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I didn't even notice her coming. You're actually tunnel visioned when you're in that satisfied relationship. So that's another thing to take note of. So cheating, we've talked about satisfaction in your relationship. We've talked about the alternatives. We've talked about how if you're single, maybe it's a feeling of desperation, and over time, you perceive women to be more attractive. So all the women listening are like, okay, I'm going to go to the bars a little bit later. Those are also important to know. What else do we want to talk about? In terms of men and women, who cheats more? Currently standing, it is men. Men cheat more often than women do. Now, be careful, because the studies that I read, it said men reported, they have men and women report, have you been with someone other than your partner this month, this year, ever? And reported is a tough word, because how many people are going to come out and say, yeah, I cheated on my spouse, right? So the numbers, I think, don't do justice the actual amount of people that cheat on their partners, but it was still men over women. And I believe if we did look at the numbers, I'd be confident to say it's still men above women. However, I think it's a lot closer to being equal. I think when the conception of birth control came around and the pill, I think that really sparked some sexual liberation for women, where they started cheating more too. So you're just as not loyal as we are. Congratulations, ladies. So let's talk about mate poaching. Mate poaching is the idea of, I see a woman, I know she's in a relationship, but I go approach her anyway. I go flirt with her, I ask her on a date, I ask her to hook up. I don't care that she's in a relationship. I put a poll on my Instagram. I said, who do you think is more likely to mate poach? Is a man more likely, from a heteronormative perspective, is a man more likely to approach a woman who he knows is in a relationship and flirt with her? Or is a woman more likely to approach a man who's in a relationship and flirt with him? The majority of people, the number one answer was women. Most people who voted this were actually women, believe that more women approach men in relationships than men approach women in relationships. That was the number one pick. Where in reality, it's actually the opposite. Men are more likely to approach a woman if she's in a relationship, knowing that she's in a relationship, and attempt to pursue her romantically. Females are a little bit less so, but again, it's close, and these studies were about 2006, 2007. So in about 5 or 6 years time, it'll be 20 years after those original studies. I would assume those numbers are a little bit closer, but men are ahead at this point. Here's the interesting thing though. If a woman, okay, approaches a man, and ladies, I'm so sorry if you're listening to this, but it's important that you listen to this and you hold on to your man tight, because you have a right to look out for other women. Check this out. If a woman approaches a man who is in a relationship and she asks him out, flirt with him, asks to hook up, what do you think is the chance that the guy accepts? Maybe some of you, you're like, no, not my man, not John, not Harry, not Mohammed. Is there a 25% chance? So if your boyfriend gets approached by 4 women, he's going to say yes to one of them? The actual percentage is 60%. Again, take this with a grain of salt, but right now in the literature, we estimate that if you have 10 boyfriends, 10 people who are in a happy relationship or in a bar, and 10 women who are single, or maybe they're in a relationship, they approach those guys, 6 of them will say yes. 6 of them will cheat on their partner with this girl. Or let's not even say cheat or leave their current partner for this new girl. That's a big number, folks. If I would have said 50%, that's statistically significant. That's, will my boyfriend stay with me if a cute girl approaches him? That's a coin flip. We're talking more than that, 60%. Now, so that's the tricky thing to wrap your mind around. Men do it more often than women do when you approach someone that you're interested in. You want to ask them out regardless of the relationship. But if a woman does it, her success rate is much higher than a male's. Forgive me, I do not remember what the male's success rate was, but it was much lower. So 60% chance that the guy says yes. Now, there's a lot of things that are important. Like I said earlier, his relationship, his satisfaction of the relationship, his perceived alternatives. Again, that girl might come over, ask him out, but he's going, look, my girlfriend's an amazing person, kind, sweet, and better looking than the girl who's, asking me to hook up. Like, no way, dude, that's not going to happen. Personality traits as well. So those are stuff to take into account. Oh, I had a really good point I was just about to make. We were talking about, what were we talking about? We were talking about jealousy. Oh, perfect. Yes, jealousy. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to think about this. You're at a party, and you see your boyfriend or girlfriend. You'll say you're hanging out with them. They go, hey, can you go grab me a drink? You go, sure. You go over, you grab a drink. As you're coming back, you see your boyfriend or girlfriend sitting beside another person of the sex that they're attracted to. So if that's your girlfriend, and you're a guy, she's talking to another guy, and she's smiling, and she's looking him in the eyes, and it appears that they're flirting. Like, it's almost obvious that they're flirting. They're looking into each other's eyes, they're laughing, it appears they're flirting, and there may be like some gentle, like hand-on-hand touching. What would you do? What would you feel in that moment? You're at a party. You turn around and someone is there talking to your girlfriend, but not just regularly, or boyfriend. I mean, they're really sitting there looking into each other's eyes. I mean, to the point where they're either best friends, or you think maybe that's an ex, whoever it is, you can tell they really like each other. You can tell by the way they're looking at each other. How would you feel? Some feelings might be anger, fear, feelings of anxiety, worry, frustration. Now, this is interesting because not everybody reacts the same to jealousy. What do you think a woman does when she sees that? Not every woman, because I know I'm going to say this and there's going to be one young lady listening to this, she's going to go, Daniel, no, you're completely wrong. I wouldn't do this. Not all women. But on average, what most women would do in that scenario is they think to themselves implicitly, so it doesn't have to be consciously, but unconsciously, there's a part of them that goes, I need to improve my relationship. Like, I need to pull him closer to me. A woman's more likely to go right in there, go stand and go, hi there. Who's this? Who's your friend? Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm John's girlfriend. Nice to meet you. And then maybe she'll stand right by him. Maybe she'll hold his hand. Maybe she'll like put one hand on his shoulder. So she'll get closer. And if they're at that same party, she'll keep that in mind. Where's my boyfriend? Where's that girl? Where's that man stealer? And she'll come sit beside him or sit on his lap or laugh really loud or kiss them. So she'll get closer. Now the thought is, well, look, Daniel, that sounds like the appropriate action. You think someone is gunning for your partner, you're going to go in, you're going to intervene. They found the opposite with men. Now again, this is not an umbrella term for everybody, but the majority of men, they found that if they found their girl looking into the eyes of another guy, maybe flirting, laughing, having a good time, when men get jealous, they're more likely to draw away on average. What does that mean? That means that same guy, maybe he leaves the drinks, maybe he doesn't come back, maybe he looks at her, he goes, fine, screw you, I don't care anyways. Sure, he's more likely to go talk to other women. He's more likely to get drunk. He's more likely to go, I don't care, sure, whatever, see if I care, whatever. Doesn't. Now he's fuming and he's angry and he might be upset, but he'll actually stay away because he's like, I don't want to see that. Now, you could be a guy listening to this, you're going, Daniel, you're wrong. I would march right up in there and I'd say, hey, what are you doing talking to my girl? And you could. I'm not saying you wouldn't. But if you take 100 men and if you take 100 women, I would bet money that you would have more women go in and intervene and right there improve the relationship, put her hand on her boyfriend's knee, make it really obvious, back off. And more men in that scenario would draw away. They wouldn't rush to intervene. Again, now it depends on how close they are and how they're, I'm not saying they're making out with them, but they're really looking into each other's eyes, they're flirting, but nothing crazy. And it might be 60-40, like I might be close. It might be like 60 men would draw back, 40 men would go in. But that's really important to know, because sometimes what women will do is if they don't feel attention from their man, I've heard of women purposely try to make their partner jealous in order to not take them for granted or to get closer, and that actually backfires, where the guy ends up distancing himself even more. There was a girl that said, she was a podcast host, and she went, look, I wanted my boyfriend to notice me more. So I pretended like I was getting a phone call every night around midnight. And I'd go into a room and I'd just start talking to myself out loud. I've already said this once on the podcast, but in case you're new, she'd start talking to herself on the phone out loud. Oh my God, you're so sweet. Please stop calling my boyfriend. Just nonsense, just making stuff up. There's no one on the other end. And when she comes back, the boyfriend's like, who is that? Who's calling you at midnight? She's like, nobody. Don't be worried about it. Don't be paranoid. And what that actually does is it pushes people away. Men specifically. It's more likely to push a guy away. So be careful, ladies. Be careful. I've never liked deceit, manipulation, and using jealousy as a methodology to gain more attention. As opposed to being like, hey, I feel like we haven't been spending as much time as we used to, or I feel like your attention is elsewhere when we're together. I feel upset when you don't pay that much attention to me, right? So you're going about head on rather than going around. That is what the literature says you would be better off doing, for both men and for women. So we've talked about jealousy, we've talked about relationship satisfaction, we've talked about relationship alternatives. The final thing I'll say in terms of personality traits is people who do cheat. They're generally low on agreeableness, and they are low in conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is a fancy word for work ethic, organization, discipline. People who are like honor students at university, they're probably very conscientious. People who like arrive early at work and they leave a little bit late, they really put it all in. You could say they're pretty conscientious. So really like to put in effort. Great work ethic. That's conscientious. Being conscientious is really tied into playing by the book, being organized, following the rules. So thus, if you're a highly conscientious person and you believe in organized and work ethic and playing by the rules of our monogamous relationship is, I don't cheat on you, you don't cheat on me. And I will use that same work ethic that I use to bang out my hours at work to make sure that our relationship stays afloat. And if that means rejecting other women, that's what I'm going to do. So when you have people who are low in conscientiousness, which means low in orderliness, low in organization, low in following the rules, you can see how that can serve as one pathway to go down to the cheating route. The last depressing thought that I will leave you with is this. Ladies, your boyfriend cheats on you. He comes to you, he says, baby, I'm so sorry. A lot of women leave. A lot of women also stay. Here's what this literature shows. if you're a woman and you 100% forgive your boyfriend for cheating on you, you 100% forgive him, the chances that he cheats again are multiplied by 3. There's a 3 times greater chance that he will cheat on you again if you completely forgive that he's cheated. I know, it's messed up. The people who don't get cheated on again are, if he cheats the first time, you confront him and you forgive most of it. You like to say you forgive, but you don't forget. You don't shove it in his face, down his throat, but you're not so, oh, whatever, people make mistakes, it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not naive to it. You're not reckless to it. You're not throwing caution to the wind. You forgive him for that instant, but you still have it in the back of your mind. So, on that positive note, that's it for today's, I was going to say lecture, but that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I don't know how many of you are in relationships or not in relationships. I hope this helped. I hope this brought some light onto things that you've already seen, things that you've witnessed, things that you'd like to try or would like to not try, and overall entertaining and educational. Thank you so much for joining me. My name has been Daniel. Stay safe, everybody, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.